You may know Bloons Tower Defense as a Flash game you played in middle school, but you may not know that there are now 6 TD games and 2 versions of the spin-off, Battles. Essentially, in Battles, you get matched with a random opponent, and you have to try and survive in a faster-paced version of TD6. But you can also send in your own balloons to your opponent. There are some other changes, but that's the gist of it. Oh, and also, I'm on the side that will say Mal on the lives bar, because that is me. Before I get into the games, I'm going to say that these aren't my first games. I played for about a week when the game first came out, and then stopped till June. I've been working on this video for a while. Game 1 was great. I had a kinda cracked engineer, Gwen, a buck, and won by rushing them with purple balloons. Spoiler alert, I abused the hell out of this strategy. Also, you might notice the audio is weird. It does that for quite a few of the games. Game 2 started alright. I had a buck I was upgrading, and Gwen placed, but then I disconnected. Game 3 was once again going really well. I had a similar loadout to Game 1, but instead of getting that cheap purple rush victory, I got disconnected. Let's just hope it's a fluke. Game 4 started with an engineer, which is just a terrible decision. I got overwhelmed early and lost about 40 lives, but managed to take the victory with a buck and some good old-fashioned purple rushing. Although for some reason it didn't show the little win graphic until their counter rush beat me, so I thought I lost. I did win, though. Game 5, I started with an engineer again for some reason. I don't know why, but I managed to get the early game okay with a buck. But I did still lose first blood by 2 lives, which always stings. And I didn't get Gwen until round 5. I did get a tax sprayer that helped me, and despite kind of fumbling the beginning of the game and having a disconnection scare, as I said in my purple rush, I still won. A lot of these early games are kind of samey because I was less concerned about making a good video and more concerned about enjoying my experience. Game 6 is no exception. The most interesting thing that happened was how I totally fumbled dealing with their camos. Game 7 started okay. I had a decently upgraded Dartling Gunner, Gwen, 4 tax shooters, and a cracked NG. But I didn't have camo lead protection, and they took advantage of that. Worst of all, they were toxic. Game 8 was pretty close, but my opponent won because they unlocked more upgrades, probably by using money. I love this game. Game 9 started with an NG and a Dartling Gunner, which were, at the time, easily the strongest towers in my loadout, if a bit weak in the early game. And just using whites, I drained half of my opponent's health. I did feel bad because I used the strategy where I just buy the second most expensive balloon I can, but I ended up going with the purple rush anyway. Easy dubs, boys. Game 10 does not exist. Game 11 was alright. I had Gwen, a decent NG, but my teammate was annoying as shit and just spammed blue balloons for like the entire game. And when I tried to purple rush them, it was extremely patchy because I forgot to raise my econ at all. That and them actually being prepared, they rushed back and won. Game 12 started with a Buccaneer and a poorly upgraded NG, which gave them the first blood and bled me for 3 lives at the start of the game. I did end up sending enough whites and pinks to bleed them for a good few lives and managed to make it to the mid-game, where I realized their Spike Factory made any attempt at rushing with non-Moabs completely futile, and they also ended up getting more Spike Factories, and they tried to bleed me out with black balloons. I ended up surviving them for long enough to get a few futile purple rushes in, but ultimately lost to natural camo cerams. Game 13 started alright, but I did end up fumbling the start of the mid-game and lost both bonuses. I ended up going through the mid-game with a Dartling Gunner and an NG until I could purple rush, which won me the game. Game 14, I started with an NG and just accepted that I would lose first blood, but I didn't expect to lose 19 lives. I have to stop this. Well, the crisis was averted, and I noticed how my opponent had close to the worst loadout to deal with a purple rush. My victory was glorious. Game 15, I started with an NG again for some reason, and surprisingly didn't bleed any lives in the start. My opponent's offensive strategy was absolutely pitiful, so I won with an easy purple rush. Big dubs, boys. Game 16 was very similar to the last two, except I kept both bonuses, and this time I moved on to the White Wasteland, also known as Boston, Massachusetts. Game 17 was very similar to Game 14, except this time my opponent had the worst loadout for a purple rush. It was by far the easiest win so far. Game 18 started with Gwen and Dartling Gunners. That's probably the best early game strategy for me, although I did lose first blood by 2 lives because I didn't get an Engineer or Dartling Gunner down early enough. We ended up both sending in extremely patchy purple rushes to each other, but I was just a little more powerful. Game 19, I had 2 NGs and 2 Dartling Gunners, and I had a decent loadout going into the late game with just under 500 econ, when they hit me with a Rainbow Rush, which got me down to 5 lives, and I guess my opponent was just in favor of the gods, and I lost even though no more Bloons got passed. Game 20, I wasn't recording. I'm pretty sure I lost. Game 21, I was shot in my femoral artery and proceeded to bleed to death for the next 6 minutes. I like the map, I guess. Game 22, like a boss 144, disconnected. An honorably broken losing streak. Game 23, for once I started with a Dartling Gunner instead of an NG or some shit. And I rolled pretty flawlessly into the mid-game where I won with a very easy Purple Rush. I didn't want to get back on my loss streak. I started this video in June, and YouTube makes it so you have to verify your phone number to upload videos longer than 15 minutes. So I wrote the first 40 or so games under the impression that I would have to make the video less than 15 minutes because I refused to verify my number. And I ended up rewriting all of the first few games because of that reason. And my original script for Game 24 was, Game 24 was basic. And I wanted to expand on it, but good God, this game is basic. I guess I lost the no lives lost perk, but that is literally all that happened that was interesting. I mean, like, Game 25, I was on my second favorite map. I did have a disconnection scare right at the start, but I reconnected just fine. I leaked 1 life in the round 2, which happened to lose me 2 of the 3 bonuses I can get, but the win streak kept going strong, and I advanced into the lead dungeon. Game 26, I DC'd, which would normally make me fall out of the lead dungeon, but because I had my win streak bonus from the last game, I just barely stayed in. Yeah, for the first 50 or so games here, I had really shitty internet, but it ended up getting fixed later, so, you know. Game 27, I lost again. I'm pretty sure there was a game here that I just completely forgot to make any notes for or acknowledge that it existed. So I stayed in the lead dungeon, but I technically have no proof of it, so it doesn't exist. I'm also a flat earther, by the way. Game 28, I lost again because I tried to swap a ninja into my loadout and didn't purple rush for some reason. Back to Boston we go. Game 29, my opponent was an average masshole, so I ran them off the road and retreated to New Hampshire. Is it time to stop this joke? Game 30 ended up being lost to time. Game 31, forget fucking Boston, Massachusetts. This shit is Camden, New Jersey. What the fuck? Game 32 was played with one of my real-life friends. I needed a break from ranked. They had never played the game before. Of course I won. Game 33, they had a slightly better loadout, but I still got first blood super early, and they sent in a very early game yellow rush with a balloon boost, which I've only ever seen anyone do if they just want to take first blood. I sent in a weak purple rush, which they dealt with all right, same with lead, and I hit them with some camo cerams and got them. Game 34, they were using the same loadout still, and I still took first blood, and they hit me with a zebra rush mid-game that I had to quickly upgrade towers to defend from. I was being nice up until then, but I just decided to purple rush them and win. Game 35, we had nearly the exact same loadout, but for some reason I refused to place any Dartling Gunners. I sent in a purple rush that damaged them, but it didn't get me the win, and I sent in some camo regrow rainbows, which absolutely ruined me. They won by miles. Game 36, we're back to rank. I took first blood literally just increasing my econ, and they hit me with a yellow rush again, making this the second time, and I actually had to upgrade to deal with that. I just hit them with another purple rush. Beyond that good game, I was screaming in both ecstasy and agony due to my severe muscular degeneration caused by playing Bloons all day. Game 37, we had a pretty similar loadout, but right before finishing buffing my econ, I got disconnected. Don't worry, there's only 5 more games with shit internet. NK, if you're watching this, somehow make it so that if your internet connection is bad and you disconnect, you don't gain or lose trophies. Salt over, Game 38, I forgot to be good at the game and my opponent won. Game 39, I lost around half of my lives in the early game. That distraction did result in me losing econ, which meant I was basically just stockpiling money, hoping I would have enough for a purple rush, and I did. Game 40 was lost to the flood. Game 41 was on this map I don't think I've ever played on again. Like last time, I bled some lives early on, but ended up winning with a purple rush. This time I buffed my econ far more effectively, though. There were about 4 months between game 41 and 42. I needed a fresh mindset. I started up with a purple rush just to warm up. I won because I'm cracked. Game 43, I swapped my Buccaneer for a Wizard. My opponent disconnected. Game 44 was interesting. I kept my towers the same, but decided to go for a Zebra Rush instead of a normal Purple Rush. It worked out, but because I had a bad starter tower, I ended up losing both of my bonuses. I'm going to try the Zebra Rush more and see if it works out. Game 45 was very long. I swapped a sniper into my loadout, who proved near useless. I thought I was going to lose first blood because I started with a Wizard, which is not ideal, but I managed to salvage it. I did a Zebra Rush, proving that it's a shit strategy, and then I went for lead, which stood a slightly better chance. Then I sent camos, which apparently their ice monkey could see, so I went for plain ceramics, which were the closest, but still not great. Then I rushed with Moabs and a Bloon boost, and that worked, but even my opponent had a good strategy and actually tried to fight for the game. Game 46, I swapped my sniper for a druid and went for a higher level Zebra Rush. I'm pretty sure if I just spent my money on purples, I could have won without a Bloon boost. Zebras are trash. Game 47, I tried a purple rush, and it actually failed, which doesn't happen often. I tried to go for lead, despite the fact that they could break lead, and somehow it worked far better than most purple rushes. Game 48, my opponent was competent, but it was no match for my purple rush. I considered going for a more fair strategy, but I like this. Game 49, my opponent was so bad that I forgot I'm also bad and lost 100 lives immediately. I kind of zoned out for the last half of the game and just started playing like it's TD6 and ended up just doing a purple rush out of pure habit when I realized what I was doing. Game 50 was incredibly long, reaching nearly round 40. It started like a normal game, but they lived the purple assault once again. Afterwards, I didn't rush until I gave them a Moab, which they defeated with extreme ease, and then I sent in 2 reinforced Moabs, and then it was basically just seeing who lasted longer against naturals, as we were both playing pretty conservatively. Ultimately, I lost to a natural Moab with the help of a BFB. My opponent for game 41 was mechanically decent and had a fine loadout. They took down a purple rush with ease, but they forgot to have any camo coverage and tried to boost when I sent camos in. It was an easy win. I refuse to acknowledge game 52. Your knowledge of it is an example of mass psychogenic illness. Game 53 was pretty basic. I got first blood by a yellow rush and then confirmed my victory with a purple one. Game 54, I swapped my wizard tower for a tack shooter. My opponent also had Benjamin. Yep, they used Benjamin. I know they would go for the cheapest strategy possible. I also realized that my wizard is the only way I can see camo, so I'll be sticking with it. I had to restart game 55 because I got matched with the same guy. Weird. In the real game 55, I was so focused on my opponent's purples that I forgot Moabs. My script for game 56 says make notes for game 56 off stream, and I did not. I won. Game 57 was streamed, same for the next 3. I was so busy making my stream not terrible that I lost first blood, but I still won with a mix of purple rushing and ceramics. Game 58, I got raided and was informed that my stream was not working, so I ended up losing while trying to fix it. Again. Game 59, the one time I tried to play more conservatively, my opponent hit me with a purple rush as I was about to get a necromancer. I love this game. Game 60, I swapped my druid for a spike tower. I also started with a spike tower, which went surprisingly well, but that spike tower carried me through the mid and end game along with my necromancer. That spike tower did the heavy lifting though, and the Zom did the killing. They stood no chance. Game 61 started on a near loss, then it was going great, until I gave my mortal enemy the idea to purple rush. Game 62, I was not recording. I lost. Game 63 was incredibly short. I was assessing whether it's good to start with a spike tower, and the answer is usually no. Game 64, my connection decided to be terrible. To contrast, last 2 Game 65 was very long. I started out by maxing my econ and went with a weak delayed purple rush. They won that engagement because they were decent, and then I sent in 3 Moabs and boosted them, and somehow it barely got halfway through the map, although I kept buffing my econ to the point where I was making enough money to buy a Moab every 6 seconds. I was even at the point where I was buying purple rushes for econ. Then I sent in a BFB, and they absolutely demolished it. Then I sent in a Zom, which was closer, but they still beat it. And as the last Hail Mary before I surrendered, I sent in 4 DDTs. I knew they would wreck my econ, so it was do or die, and you know, I did. Game 66 was pretty similar to 65. Same map, too. And my tower positions were pretty close, although when Tier 2 purples were unlocked, I hesitated too long, and although I did manage to rush back, and we both beat each other's rushes. But then they rushed again with the camos, and I lost. Game 67 was on the same map again. It's my favorite, but a change would be nice. I played the same loadout and same strategy. Also, the audio is weird again. My opponent wasn't that great and started with an ice tower for some reason, which is just a horrible strategy, and they ended up leaking quite a lot of lives, but they made it through my purple rush. Luckily, I just bought some camo LEDs and won the engagement. Game 68 was finally a different map, and I ended up starting with a spike factory, which I just tested, and it's a bad strategy. So I ended up leaking 125 lives by the time I was comfortable, and then my opponent got to the purple rush before me. I didn't last much longer from there. Game 69 was anything but nice. In fact, it's so horrible, I think I need to blur it. I'm getting PTSD doing this voiceover. Also, I went back to the White Wasteland, which means nothing. Game 70, I was in the lead dungeon again. I think I got 69 and 70 mixed up, but it's funnier if I absolutely fumble Game 69. Anyway, this game was extremely long. Once again, I have over 1,000 econ, and my teammate was crushing 80 ceramics in a row by spamming spike factories and druids. They also maxed their econ early, which gave them the upper hand and ability to upgrade, which led to me wasting money trying to take them down and losing to a natural BFB. Game 71, I was not recording, but I think I won. Game 72, I leaked 1 life at the start, meaning I lost first blood, but aside from that, it was going great. I had 2 Dartling Gunners, Gwen, a Spike Factory, and a Wizard, so I was pretty kitted to either go into the mid-game and do a Purple Rush win, or go into the late game well prepared, but then when I sent in my Purple Rush, it lagged and my opponent got their purples in first. Game 73 was on a map I don't think I've ever played, and I started with Gwen, which is definitely the best move I could have done to start. And this started the perfect game. I got a Wizard to help me out, and kept increasing my econ, and then I got a Spike Tower and Dartling Gunner, and kept upgrading them. I did fail my Purple Rush, but I think it made the game more fun. By round 19, I already had 1,000 econ, and I kept getting money, and got a Necromancer. Watch me crush this mill out, by the way. And then I sent in a Zom for a casual 5.5 grand. Well, it did take a balloon boost, and nearly breaking all balloons, and the fact that literally none of my balloons got past their defenses, and I think the game bugged, I won. Game 74 was on the Basalt Columns map, which I hate. I just surrendered. Game 75 was on a substantially better map, and I started with Gwen. Then I got a Dartling Gunner, but while trying to get it to aim at the right angle, a blue balloon leaked, so they got first blood. And, of course, they were toxic. I kept beefing my econ and got a Wizard, still I ended up leaking some more lives, though, down to 136. Then I buffed my econ more and realized I had 1 round to do my Purple Rush and had about 500 gold. So I sent an Apache Purple Rush with like 1,500 gold, but the next round they sold their second Dartling Gunner right as I sent in my Purple Rush. They probably could have salvaged it, but instead they just went out on their own terms. I respect it. Game 76, I decided to use Quincy and reminded myself why I used Gwen. Anyway, my opponent was kind of weird. Their name was just player, which usually means they're not registered on account, which usually means they're not a very active player, which usually means they're not that good. They used the strategy of just spamming the second most expensive balloon the entire time, which is annoying, although they were woefully unprepared for a Purple Rush, and I won. Game 77, I forgot to stop using Quincy and was on the same map. This game was actually extremely similar to 76. I bled some lives in the early game, and my opponent was terrible and used this annoying strategy, and I ended up winning with the Purple Rush. Game 78, I once again used Quincy. I swear to God, I don't like him. I ended up bleeding them for quite a lot in the early game, and I already had first blood on round 1. Which kept bleeding them, and then I ended up doing some damage with whites, then got zebras, which destroyed them. Game 79 was on a good map, but I surrendered because I forgot to stop using Quincy again. Game 80, my opponent started with a sniper and buccaneer, so I assumed that I would absolutely mop the floor with them, but somehow they ended up getting a 2-3-0 sniper monkey, and that helped them hold out. And they got there by using the most annoying offense strategy, and their counter rush bled me for 31 lives. and I bled down to 95 later on. I ended up sending leads, which got them down to 30 lives, but we still ended up duking it out in the end game. I ended up getting double 230 Dartling Gunners, but I still ended up losing in the end game to a natural Moab because I forgot that Gwen's level 10 ability was on cooldown. Game 81, my opponent was pro. They were not, in fact, pro. Game 82 started with a single Spike Factory, and I bled exactly 2 lives. I don't know why I ever start with Spike Factories. When I got my Purple Rush in, they were incredibly close to losing, and only survived by about 56 lives. And counter rushed with Camo Purples before I could recover from the Purple Rush, and I didn't last long. Game 83 was on a map I tolerate, and it started alright, but my opponent was using the strat of spamming the most powerful balloon they can, which just so happens to be the most bullshit strategy in the game. I just ended up bleeding out. Game 84, I leaked 2 lives in the early game and another 3 later, so I lost my bonuses. But I ended up clutching it with a Purple Rush and some luck. It was still quite close, and I think another 30 seconds would have given them the win there. Game 85, I got through the early game with great econ, although I did lose a few lives. I was actually geared up to go into the mid game and win with a Purple Rush, but I thought I had another round to get my Purple Rush ready, and I did not, so they sent in their own rush, and I lost. Game 86, I was on my favorite map again, and I thought I had the win, but they lived my Purple Rush by 3 lives, and then hit me with a counter rush, which got me. I am absolutely seething, still, while doing this voiceover. Game 87, I was on another map which I really like, and my opponent's loadout was weird. They had Aubin Greenfoot, who was just okay, and for their other towers, they had a Bomb Tower and Tack Shooter, which are like, I just started playing today level towers, but then Banana Farms, which are kind of pointless in battles. Anyway, I hit them with a Purple Rush and won the game. Game 88, my opponent got first blood. I was cruising through the mid-game, and they lived my Purple Rush. I just laid low and increased my own firepower until I decided to get a BFB, which ended up getting me the win. It was weird, though. On the recording, it doesn't look like a single Bloon made it to the end, but a solid 3 seconds later, maybe it recalculated the damage or something, they got defeated. Game 89 started really well, but when I went to do my Purple Rush, this happened. Watching the video, they clearly leaked more than the 30 lives they lost, and then they counter-rushed and won. This game has no bugs, it's perfectly polished. Game 90 was even more infuriating. They just spammed tack shooters for a good portion of their popping power. When I hit them with a Zong, it would have killed them, but either the game lagged and it didn't calculate their lives until after the balloons got to me, or it failed because I had more popping power and reduced the balloons down faster than them. Either way, complete bullshit. Game 91, I decided to start being a try-hard. I wanted to get to the Ceramic Crucible before the end of the video. This game, I won with a Purple Rush, same with every other win in the 90s. Game 92, we were both doing quite well in the mid and early game, but they weren't geared for a Purple Rush, and I absolutely swept the floor with them. Game 93, I basically just spammed Dartling Gunners, plus a Spike Factory and Wizard, then Gwen. And my Purple Rush failed, and then I wasted 50 econ on 2 BFBs, but took home the victory with 40 ceramic balloons. I also opened my Mighty chest, and it was absolutely loaded. Good thing I have all of 7 games to enjoy it. Game 94, my opponent's loadout was insane, and not in the good way. They had a Glue Gunner, an Ice Tower, a Wizard, and Quincy. I bled them down 32 lives in the first 10 rounds and beat them with a Purple Rush. I really don't know what they were going for with that loadout or how they got to the lead dungeon. Game 95 was extremely short. I just had 1 Dartling Gunner and a Spike Factory, and they were just spamming random Bloons. Ultimately, I bled for most of the game and then lost to their bullshit. Game 96, my opponent had a questionable loadout. They only put down a Monkey Sub and a Super Monkey, which is not that good for its pricing, can only hit basic balloons. But I ended up just Purple Rushing them, which got me the win. Game 97 was just another Purple Rush. I had a good loadout, and they didn't, and now I should only need 2 more games to win and get the Ceramic Crucible. Game 98 was more of the same, and my opponent had an equally mid loadout. Now I'm only 1 game from the win. Game 99 was the exact same thing again. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I just need to get 1 more game. Oh, but I won't get the win streak bonus. Oh. Game 100 I would normally call a fine win. I had a good loadout, but I didn't feel right not getting into the Ceramic Crucible. Also, I needed footage for the intro and outro. You've already seen Game 101 in the intro, and Game 102 is playing right now. This video took me about 6 months to make from start to finish, and there's like at least 25 hours of gameplay. I can't count that high. But it ended up being a really fun project nonetheless. So if you made it this far, then give a like and maybe even subscribe. Or don't. I really could not care less. Bye-bye.